Hi, it's Karolyn. I'm here to help you learn how to bake and decorate amazing cakes, and in this video I'm showing you how to make my chocolate glaze for my pound cakes. Now if you don't know, I do have a pound cake recipe ebook with 12 pound cake and 8 glaze recipes, and this is my signature pound cake recipes, and I released this ebook recently, and this is one of the glazes that is in the book. And I wanted to make this video because I had someone who purchased the book ask me why their chocolate glaze turned out grainy, so I want to show you the correct way to make the glaze. And if you would like my pound cake and my other glaze recipes, I will link that ebook down in the description. So let's get started. To make this recipe, you're going to need 2 1/4 cup or 200 grams of semi-sweet chocolate chips. I prefer to use these Nestle Toll House chocolate chips. You can use any kind of chocolate that you like, but this is what I prefer. A half cup or 113 grams or 8 tablespoons of butter. I prefer to use salted butter. 3 tablespoons or 69 grams of light corn syrup. And 1 teaspoon of Wilton clear vanilla. This is my preferred vanilla. You can use any vanilla flavoring that you would like. I'm going to start by putting my burner all the way on the lowest setting, and I'm doing a half of a recipe, so instead of 2 1/4 cups of chocolate chips, I'm doing 1 1/8 cup or 100 grams of chocolate chips, and I'm doing a 1/4 cup instead of a half cup of the butter since I'm doing half of the recipe. I cut the butter in chunks and I put it in a glass cup, and I'm going to microwave it for about a minute until it is completely melted. And I'm gently stirring these chocolate chips that have barely started to melt in this pot. Now I have 1 1/2 tablespoons of the corn syrup. If you're making a full recipe, you'll want 3 tablespoons. I'm making sure I get all of that in there, and then I'm taking my melted butter and I'm pouring that on top of the chocolate chips. The melted butter is going to help speed up the process, the melting process. So I'm just going to gently stir this around, and then I'm going to add the teaspoon of vanilla and stir that as well. Now I prefer to use a spatula when I'm stirring this chocolate because I can scrape it off the sides and the bottom of the pan. Now to speed up the melting process, I'm turning it up slightly. So I turned it to like a 2 out of 10, and I'm keeping my eye on it, and I'm making sure that I am stirring this pretty consistently. I can leave it for about 30 seconds and then go back and check on it and stir it again. So over a course of probably 90 seconds, I kept going back and stirring it, and every time I stir it, I make sure I scrape the sides and the bottom of the pan to make sure no chocolate is going to burn. And when I hold up the spatula, it's not dripping yet, so I know it needs to melt a little bit more. I'm getting a little bit of glaze on the bottom of that tray so the cake sticks to it. And I have a half of a chocolate chip pound cake, and again, that recipe is in my pound cake recipe ebook. And I'm just removing this from the plastic and placing it on that tray, and the glaze on the tray is going to hold it on there so it doesn't move around. And now I'm turning it up just a little bit higher, a 4 out of 10, until it melts completely. And I know that it is melted when I'm holding up the spatula and it is thin enough that it is dripping. So I want to keep stirring it because I turned it up on a higher heat until it is completely melted. And that looks thin enough, so it will drip down the side of the cake. Now, with my other glaze, I pour it on like this and it drips down the side, but the chocolate glaze is always a little bit thicker, so what I like to do instead of pouring it on is take a spoon, and that way I can drip it down the side of the cake wherever I want it to be. So I'm just trying to strategically place this chocolate down the sides of the cake and then into the middle. Now with my chocolate glaze, I don't cover the entire cake like I do with the vanilla glaze. I just prefer to do it this way. You can thin out this chocolate with a little bit more butter if you prefer it to be a little thinner, but I just like this chocolate glaze to be a little thicker. So I'm just taking my spoon and carefully dripping this glaze down the cake. Now, this is a half a lemon with vanilla glaze and half chocolate chip with chocolate glaze. This is a pound cake that I was bringing to my best friend's house for Christmas. And I do this frequently where I do 2 different flavors. I like to do half and half, and people appreciate the variety. And I just make sure I get the glaze all the way up to the edges, and then any extra glaze, I like to just fill the hole in the middle. Trust me, people love having that extra glaze in the center. And I also am going to do that with the extra vanilla glaze as well. Here's how the glaze looks right after I put it on the cake. It is a little shiny until it sits for about an hour or two. Then it has more of a matte finish to it, and it is nice and smooth, not grainy. Then I put on the lid and it's all ready to go. So there you go. It is pretty simple to make this glaze. A couple things you want to be sure of. Number one, you never want any water to touch the chocolate. If you do, even a tiny amount of water is going to cause that chocolate to seize, and it is going to become grainy and clumpy. And also, it is very important to keep the heat on low. Now you saw how I did turn it up a little bit to speed up the melting process. However, when I do turn up the heat, I keep a constant eye on it, and I'm almost constantly stirring it. I don't let it sit for too long because you don't want that chocolate to burn. So the higher you turn up the heat, the more you have to stir it consistently. And I wouldn't turn up the heat higher than a 3 or 4 out of 10. And to store this chocolate glaze, you're going to want to keep it in the refrigerator in an airtight container. It will keep for up to 5 days. And to reuse this chocolate glaze, I would just remove it from the fridge and let it sit on the table at room temperature for a couple hours until it thaws. And then I would pop it in the microwave at 15-second intervals and stir in between each 15 seconds until it's completely melted. So I think that's it. If you guys have any questions or comments about this, leave it below. And just a reminder, I do have a link in the description to my ebook. The ebook is in a PDF format, and you can download it to your phone or your computer. And right now it's $29 or $24 for members of my KakeAcademy. And I do have a KakeAcademy membership program where I can help you elevate your cakes to the next level. All of that information will be linked in the description. And I would love it if you would keep in touch on socials, and you can check out my website. And if you want to stick around, you can watch this video next and hit subscribe and the bell if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching. I love you guys. And remember, it's cake, have fun. I will see you on the next one. Bye.